ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rev and Filo show. Here we are once again.
What's up, everybody?
Nice to see everyone. We're still in the midst of what I think might be going on 2 weeks now
Of protesting.
protesting and some might say civil unrest. People are pushing back. The police and the government are pushing back, and it's been a very tense time. But I feel that people, I noticed, like, especially like online, a lot more people are speaking up.
Yeah.
And I noticed not just about like prejudice or racism from the police or brutality from the police, but also people are starting to sort of point the finger at just regular people, your friends, your family, people you might know who are casually using the N-word or who might openly hate black people or openly say the N-word with the hard R.
Yeah.
I know a lot of that goes on in the Mexican community and the Hispanic community. I know a lot of people, not a lot, but I know I've ran into people who are very prejudiced. People who grew up in the United States, people who were born here, who grew up, and for some reason they've somehow developed this racism towards black people specifically.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is about, but I noticed that people are starting to call out just everybody,
Which
and
I guess is good, right?
well, yeah, it's good, and it's just like we have to, people we're like, they're getting fed up with it, and there seems to be a bigger divide. What the hell was I gonna say?
Well, just to touch up on what you said, there's like videos coming out where like, younger crowd, because obviously that's usually who goes out and speaks up, which is good because that's the future,
right?
Obviously.
For sure, yeah. I mean,
but like there's kids that
predominantly like younger, like people in their 20s and 30s.
But like they're like standing up against their parents.
For
like,
sure, yeah, and that takes a whole lot of motherfucking balls.
Yeah,
it's easy to sort of shrug it off and be like, well, that's how they were, that's how they were raised, or that's kind of what they came up in. Like, okay, but you gotta. That doesn't mean you can't unlearn. What you know is wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was that the cops that were involved in the killing of George Floyd, they've all been brought up on charges.
Yeah.
And the guy who was on his neck is now second-degree murder. They're charging him with. I think it was like manslaughter, right? And third degree. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of why the protest started, and that's where they sort of escalated from that particular incident. But people they're not like stopping. Like, now that we've had quote unquote justice for George Floyd.
Yeah.
People are like, well, what about? I think there's a lady who was killed called Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
What about her? What what I'm saying? Like, they're trying to. People want to say this is an isolated incident, and the Black Lives Matter movement and their supporters and their allies are trying to say this isn't isolated. This is what goes on.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about it, and so many people get away with it, and you hear the argument. All lives matter. It's like, well, duh.
Yeah.
Of course all lives fucking matter. That's a stupid argument. The point is, and then they say, well, black on black is the percentage black people kill more black people than
I hate that fucking
or
argument.
Mexican people kill more black people, or Mexicans and black people are killing each other, or black people kill more white people, and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but who's getting away with it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Go to fucking jail. Yeah. Go to a fucking penitentiary, and I guarantee you it's going to be predominantly brown people and black people.
And that's kind of why this whole situation it kind of tipped the iceberg, I guess. Because cops don't, they get away with everything. then
that's
this
another
and
argument.
then now they get charged.
Yeah.
And so now that's why everyone's like, okay, don't stop, because we've gathered this momentum.
Yeah, and it's like, because if we, they want us to stop. They want us to be like, okay, everyone can go home now, and then the president is fueling it.
Oh man,
it's it's crazy how people can't see how the way he speaks is very kind of vindictive. You know what I'm saying? Like and then he blatantly sort of speaks much more understandingly when it comes to white people.
Oh yeah.
And it's so blatant, and people just turn a blind eye, which is why the protesting isn't stopping. Because, okay, George Floyd got justice. Okay, everyone go home and go to sleep now and just go back to your normal lives. But we've gotten to a point in 2020 where people have lost their jobs. People are just fed up with everything.
Struggling
people
to make money.
Struggling to make money. People are they're confused because they're getting so much conflicting media, and it's it's June, 6 months, and I mean, it's been nothing but a fucking snowball ever since Kobe died, really. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I mean, seriously, ever since Kobe died, the world has just been snowballing, especially the United States.
I mean, Hong Kong has been, protesting their freedom from China, right?
Right.
And Trump, supports them, but it's kind of weird how he can support them. And then like talk about China's really like oppression to their people. Yeah. And then what goes on during the protest in front of the White House, and Trump goes into his bunker.
Yeah, that's another crazy thing. Is I saw a photo of that Trump went into a bunker.
Yeah. It's funny.
Why would he go into a bunker?
Because what
people
happens?
Protesting outside the White House.
So what happens? CIA protocol, right?
Okay.
So what happens is when the White House is threatened, or by terrorists, or whatever domestic terrorism, whatever it is, their protocol is to grab the president and take him down to a bunker until it's safe. So and then they send out whatever agents they need to protect him. The thing is, most of these protests are peaceful, and then the cops, if you watch videos, most of the time, there's the cops that initiated or just they use excessive force when they're like if somebody just throws a water at them. Okay, fine, somebody throws water at you, you're gonna get angry, but then you get 6 cops shooting fucking rubber bullets at you at point blank range
for sure.
And
but you're seeing a lot of videos of cops just rolling up on people now, and I mean, the thing about all these videos, whether the videos of cops, brutalizing citizens, or citizens, being reckless and looting and doing all these things. The thing about these videos is most of them are taken out of context. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just confusing, and it's easy to jump to conclusions on anything, and so it's just,
but I'll tell you this.
It's all very confusing to me.
Some of the videos, maybe there's a part they left out, but there's a lot that you can see where, like, okay, there was one specific one that I saw, and oh man, dude, like it pissed me off. Because, the cops are saying, oh, no, there's people out there. Like, we know there's peaceful protests, but there's those bad apples that are in there.
Yeah.
And
okay.
There was
Hold
a line.
The fucking mirror.
So there was a line. I don't know if the protesters did this on purpose, but whatever happened, and it just blatantly showed the racism. So what happened was the cops are standing in line, all white cops, and white protesters. It was like 3 white protesters that passed in front of them. One of the protesters got touched. She was a white lady. She got touched. She was like, "Get the fuck off me! Don't touch me!"
Right. And
she passed. And then right behind her was a black man. And as there was one more white guy who was like, "Oh, hey, dude, I'm sorry, I'm moving." And then right behind him was a black man, and they pulled him in.
Yeah.
And then
they pulled him in.
They pulled him behind the line and like pretty much like got him to arrest. Yeah, and like arrested him.
And
then right after that, they pulled another black lady. So they were like picking and choosing the protesters, and it was black people they were choosing. I
was watching this video of this guy. he's like a right wing guy. He's just Ben Shapiro. He's like a Jewish like right wing
I have heard of him.
conservative, but like he's not. He's a somewhat logical guy. Like he's someone I like to hear his view because he's a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also very logical. He
Right.
he doesn't just blindly follow Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
he kind of weighs.
he bases his stuff more in like religion. He's he's very devout Jewish guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, but sometimes he does sort of dismiss the state of the plight of the black person and the plight of the POCs in the United States. And he's saying, and he said something along the lines of that systematic racism doesn't exist, and this whole like thing that everyone is equal isn't true, and that this whole idea that we have to like tear down the system and build it from scratch is nonsense. That's what he says. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know Ben Shapiro personally, and I don't know like his background or how he grew up, but I know he didn't grow up in South Central.
Yeah,
That's for sure. I know he didn't grow up in any sort of like low income black or brown neighborhood, so he doesn't know the way the police act.
yeah,
In the way they lurk, the way they pretty much. I said in the last podcast, the police manhandle you. Once you're a suspect based off of, I mean, once they've profiled you, they will manhandle you. They're not going to come up to you and question you. They're going to come up to you and immediately subdue you and then question you.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you have to, for the sake of your survival, you have to take it. You have to take it.
Yeah, dude, I took a class, justice administration class.
Yeah.
And he was a former detective for
Yeah.
LAPD, and he said like, when you get stopped by the cops, he goes, just answer their questions and tell them, I need to leave, and if they don't let you leave, okay, stay quiet.
Yeah.
And let them arrest you or do whatever they have to do.
For sure.
Because he said all they have to do is say,
Yeah.
you fit a profile of a suspect that we're looking for. And that's it. And that's all they need.
But so the question is, the thing is people are saying, well, why do we have to do that?
Yeah.
Why are we constantly under surveillance? And like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know. I guess because we have to allow the police to do their job, I suppose.
It's weird.
I don't know. People. I've seen tons of videos where it's like, it's the police and they show up and it's like, well, why are you here? I need proof of residence. I need this and that, and it's always black people.
Yeah.
It's always people of color, dark skinned people. It's always, and it's like, there's patterns. If you can't recognize patterns, you're never gonna learn anything about yourself or fucking your family or your family history or the history of a fucking country. So, so back to this guy Ben Shapiro says, it doesn't exist, systematic racism. Of course it exists, but like I've said it before. How could you understand the plight of a black person or the black community if you're not black?
Yeah.
And you've never lived that life? It's not possible.
Yeah.
You have to just take their word for it. And I mean, there's the whole thing about peaceful protesting. Look at Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And they were marching peacefully. And there's a meme. It's a photo of Dr. King marching with people. And they're all they're all linked up.
Chained up.
It says, never looted, never stole, never rioted, changed the world. No, they didn't. Because the same shit's still going on.
Yeah.
And motherfuckers are still protesting the same motherfucking shit. And you know what they did to those peaceful protesters? They fucking shot them with water hoses.
Yeah.
With fucking fire hoses.
Yeah, like what they use.
They fucking put
houses.
dogs on them. And you know what they did to MLK? They killed him because he was considered one of the most dangerous men in the fucking world, in the United States, and so Malcolm X too. Granted, Malcolm X, he was more of the mind of like, fuck that shit, defend yourself. None of this, none of this, don't tread on me bullshit. Like, you come at me, I'm gonna come at you, because that's how it should be, And they killed him too, and because they were powerful men who had powerful ideas, and I don't know. That's all. End of rant.
They, and it's weird too because when all these protesting started, I don't think none of them were really organized. Like especially like when the like the first like protesting with looting, because I do say with looting because they were totally separate situations. You know, people. I don't think people understand that the looting and the protesting, they always combine them, and though they're two separate situations. The looting is opportunists that just try and go and make money, and you have to understand that a lot of people don't have, they're struggling to make ends meet right now, so people see this as an opportunity to make some money, maybe steal some stuff and sell it, whatever. Anyway,
I mean, look, of course, obviously, like breaking into businesses and looting and I don't even think rioting is that bad. Looting is bad. You don't want to steal from businesses, from your community, and for sure, of course, that's bad. Of course, nobody's like, steal all that, steal them shoes. But you got to see the bigger picture of people are angry, and they just feel the need to push back and continue to push back because, like I said, if they don't, the government and the police are still very much in control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All they have to do is oblige us. But that's all they're doing is obliging us. They're not actually giving up power. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, in LA, I know Mirror City yesterday. Well, these past 2 days of protesting, this Thursday, June 4th, have been peaceful protests. Today,
there's been peaceful protests the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. But okay. So what I mean is, there wasn't any like cop violence.
Well, I think a lot of people who are in the protest are not only protesting the brutality, the police brutality, but I think they're also making a concerted effort to say, don't. Don't start looting and control yourself because you're allowing them to undermine what we're doing here. Exactly. And we're on a fucking roll.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the mayor made a speech yesterday after he lifted the curfew, because there's been curfews all week last week. And
pissing me off.
Yeah, I know, for real.
I'm like, can I ever go outside?
Yeah, I know. Not only do we have a curfew, then we have this damn pandemic. Anyway.
And you know what? I listen.
Yeah.
Okay? I listen. I fucking go inside.
Yeah.
Shit.
Motherfucker.
Anyway. You know why? Because, look at me. They'll pull me right into that motherfucking ride and fucking make sure I'm go to jail.
Yeah, for real.
I can give you 2 examples of where, I wasn't brutalized per se violently, but that's because, like I said, I allowed the police to just straight manhandle me.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Okay, I'll tell you one. I was pulled over. This was at night. It was at night, so there was no one around. It was dark. They pulled me over, right? I remember it like it was yesterday. I was around the corner from my house. This was back in 2013. They pulled me over because my tail light was out or my brake light was out, right? So they pulled me over, right? So I pull over. I've been pulled over before. And I pull over. I had my window about like halfway rolled down. Like I was already like that. It was already kind of rolled down. So I get my license and registration, right? And I put my hands on the wheel, right? Okay. So far so good. And I'm expecting the cop to come up to me. I'm gonna give them my shit. They're gonna say, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" Blah blah blah. Okay. They roll up to me. And this is 100% true. Not one exaggeration. One cop comes to the passenger. I was by myself. One cop comes to the passenger side. The other cop comes to my side. The cop doesn't say one word to me. Doesn't ask me for my information. Doesn't ask me for my license. Doesn't ask me for this. He reaches into the car. He unlocks the door and he opens the door and he pulls me out.
What the fuck?
Yep. Instantly. Puts me, in. He doesn't cuff me, but he puts my hands behind my back, right? Grabs my leg, starts patting me down. I haven't asked me my name or anything. patted me down, and he says, "What do you got? If you got anything, tell me now. Tell me now." And I go, "I got some weed in my pocket." I had like a nug of weed.
Yeah.
I go, "I got some weed in my pocket." It wasn't even in a container. It was just a fucking piece of weed just in my pocket. About the A big. I got some weed in my pocket. And the cop says, "I don't care about weed. What do you really got?" What? Okay. Right then and there, I knew I was good because I didn't have shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I drank like a beer or two, so I was a little buzzed. So that kind of was tripping me out. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, man. But, like, they didn't pull me over because they thought I was drunk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And,
What did they say they pulled you over? Did they ever tell you?
well, they thought I had drugs on me.
Yeah, but they didn't, like...
So they accused me of being on meth. So
what?
So what happened? So they put me in the back of the car,
Uh-huh.
and they start searching my car, and they just searched my car. And one guy's searching it, the other guy's in the car with me, saying, "Look, if you got anything, just fucking say it now, because we're gonna find it. We're gonna find it." And I said, "I don't have anything. There's nothing to find." And then I remember, you know, if you ever go, if you smoke weed, you know they have pipes, right? They have like
Yeah.
these little weed pipes. They have like nice pipes, but they have cheap pipes that are like real cheap. They almost look like crack pipes.
Yeah, I was
a
gonna
little
say,
bit.
yeah.
So I had one of those, right?
Uh-huh.
And they
Oh,
pulled it out, and I remember like thinking like I ain't got shit because I didn't have shit.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the guy, and the guy searching my car, and he pulls out the little pipe, and I saw it, and I said, "That's it. I'm done." I go, "That's it. That's all they need to just pin it on me. Like this is enough, you know."
Yeah.
But he looked at it. All right, cool, fine. So
What?
then the police come, and they got me, and they're like, you know, "When's the last time you did drugs? When's the last time you did meth?" And this and that. They're checking my pulse. My pulse is fast. We're going fast, right? Because I'm fucking scared.
Yeah.
And they're like, "I think you're on meth right now." I go, "I'm not on shit." They're like, "Well, why is your heartbeat very accelerated?" Because I'm fucking scared, bro. Because you're gonna fucking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I had already been arrested before and shit, so I already knew how easy it was for them to just take me away.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
I've been in jail. I've been booked. I'd never do it ever again. Ever in my life.
I've been in jail. I ain't going back.
I ain't going back. All right?
Fuck.
Shit, I never even made it to county, and I was like, I'll never fucking go back ever again.
I mean,
So, so they accused me, but they had nothing on me.
so how long do you think this
The
all
whole
lasted?
thing was maybe like 20, 30 minutes.
Okay, that's still pretty long.
And they let me go. Now, the only reason why I got let go is because I was completely complicit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
but what right did they have to really treat me like that?
Yeah, they were just fishing.
They saw me and they were just like, "We're going to just fucking manhandle this fool and try to find something." I don't know. You know, I don't know what their logic is or this and that, but
I mean, I have a small story. I didn't get pulled over. I've been fortunate enough not to really have to deal with cops like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just got lucky, I guess.
yeah.
But there was this one time I was driving down Soto, right here in East LA, and there was a motorcycle cop right behind it, and I had our friend Sammy in the back, and Ash was in the passenger seat, and I get to a light and it like splits off. It's like a fork, right, in the road. And the motorcycle come, and I see him like 3 cops behind, and I tell Sam, I go, "Sam, if you don't have your seatbelt on right now, because it doesn't look like you have it on, put it on right now before this cop comes up." And so Sam throws it on real quick, and he drives up, and we get to the fork, and I'm going right, and as soon as he gets up to the light, he looks at me, and we kind of look at each other, and I just nod at him like, like, "Hey," just human gesture. Anyway, yeah. And then so he looks at me, and then he turns back, and he unclips his gun from his waist, like grabs it. He's like, "You have your seatbelt on?" And
What?
I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I swear." You can ask Ash, this happened. Like, I swear. Sammy, you can even ask Sammy. He's like, "You have your seatbelt on?" And he grabs his gun, and he's like pulling it halfway, and I go, dude, and I'm pulling my I was like, "It's right here. It's right here."
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, dude. And then he's
Who does that?
And he looks at me, and he's just like, "Oh," and he clips it, and he starts laughing, and he drives off.
Laughing, huh?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I've never held or shot a real gun.
Mm.
Have I? Never. I want to, but I haven't. I'm a bit of a gun virgin, if you will. 31-year-old gun virgin. A gun must feel really good because cops can't take their hands off of it. It must have like some sort of like squishy handle, you know, like those stress balls. You know what I'm saying? Like, because one time just love grabbing their guns. There must be something about them.
I don't know.
It must
maybe
feel good in the fingers or something.
I mean,
Maybe it's like they're cold. You know, like the cold side of the pillow. You know, when it's hot, you
like,
switch your pillow and you like, and then it's like like that's what guns must feel like because the cops can't get their hands off of them. They must feel amazing,
dude. I mean, like after the incident, that I've never stopped thinking about that day. Like it's crazy.
I'll tell you another one. I was in Boyle Heights back when I used to live on First Street, and I decided I'm going to go to Allenby's, right? It's about 4 or 5 blocks from my house. So I walk, right? Burrito spot, local, great spot. Great bean and cheese if you're looking for a recommendation. And I walk to Allenby's. I order a burrito, bean and cheese, I believe. A corn dog. This is important to the story.
Yeah.
A corn dog. And maybe some taquitos I can't remember.
Man,
remember the
nice.
well, I was smoking a ton of weed back then, so I was,
You needed one for the walk back, you know.
Yeah, well, no, I finished it all before I left.
Shit.
So I sit. It's daytime. It's an outside. You know, they don't have an inside. It's all outside. You know, you go to the window. So I order. I get my food. I eat.
Yeah.
And then I walk back, right? So I'm walking back about 2 blocks down. A Honda, kind of like the Honda you used to drive, Honda Civic, kind of beat up. You know, what year was that?
2003.
2003 Honda, unmarked. Pulls up. I'm standing at the corner of Breed and First Street for any Boyle Heights aficionados out there. Breed and First Street. I'm standing there waiting for the light to turn red. I mean green because I'm standing at the red.
Yeah.
And this unmarked Honda pulls up, and these 2 big fat cops, detectives, because they weren't wearing the regular. They were wearing regular clothes, but they had their vest on, their bulletproof vest, and they had their gun and they had their badge.
Yeah.
They pull up, they get out, and again they just fucking grab me, and they put me in, you know, and then they start saying, "Where you going?" This and that and this. And I go, "I'm going home." "Where do you live?" "I live up the street." They're like, "Well, where are you headed or where are you coming from?" And I go, I was like, "I just went to go get lunch." And they're like, "Yeah, we know. We saw you. You went to Allenby's." And they go, You ordered a burrito and a corn dog." They were following me.
What?
And they were fucking surveillancing me.
Fucking
and
creeps.
So again, I'm standing there, and again, you know, the cops are manhandling me. You know, I don't resist, so luckily I don't end up on the ground with the fucking knee on my neck. But if I said, "Hey, fuck you," you know what I'm saying? Could have been me. You know what I'm saying?
They could have just took your ass for a ride.
And again, you know, well, good. You know, just comply. Just do what the officers say, and you'll be all right. But why do we have to if we're not doing anything wrong? You know what I'm saying? And the only reason why they did that to me, I'll never forget it. They had me, you know, not cuffed, but they had me, you know, however, whatever, like my hands behind my back. And they did kind of something very cliche too. One cop was very aggressive with me.
And the
other cop was a little nicer, kind of like, "Hey man, just do what we say, man." You know, you don't want.
Hey man, this guy's crazy, man.
This guy's crazy, man. You're my partner 10 years, bro. You want to live to see Easter, bro?
I got no dick, man. Just get it.
So, I got no dick, man. Shit, just do it, Just tell us where you coming from, man. Who the fuck goes to Allenby's and orders a corn dog? It's a Mexican restaurant, So, I like corn dogs. They have good corn dogs.
Hey, man, I love corn dogs, too.
You know? There's something you know why? Because it's kind of like hot dog on a stick.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there's just something about that fresh batter and that fresh deep fry, because you can get the frozen ones from Costco.
It's that nice crunch and soft.
Yeah, it's fresh. They do that fresh deep fry.
Yeah.
You know, they use masa too. They don't use regular dough. They use masa. Why it gives that little Mexican that flair, you know, for the neighborhood. Anyways, the only reason why they manhandled me like such is I'm standing there, and then, you know, they have their walkie-talkies, right? You know, so I hear, suspect at the corner of 4th and Soto,
Oh my god.
wearing blue sweater, blue jeans. Guess what I had on?
Blue sweater.
Blue sweater and blue jeans, matching, just like my mother told me, just like my mother taught me. And because I have a sense of style, the fucking cops get to just manhandle me in broad daylight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's you know,
It's great. And then like people walking by, like,
oh shit,
yeah, I know, like it's
You know?
crazy.
and like, I don't know. It's so that's now that's on a very, that's just me, regular old me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
that's the kind of shit, you know. Imagine if like, imagine in really harsh neighborhoods where the cops constantly
Mhm.
are on a, you know, on edge.
And had you been black,
And had I
ooh.
been black, forget it. There's no black people in Boyle Heights. Shit,
Yeah.
they would have shot me down from
Yeah.
from the car. They wouldn't have even got off the
Yeah,
car.
just dumped on. Goddamn.
And you know, so this is the kind of shit that goes on, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a mild, it's mild, maybe even less than mild. That's like a beginner experience.
Yeah.
Then you have, you know, someone like George Floyd, or the other guy, I forget his name, forgive me, but there was another gentleman who got choked a few years back.
That's right.
What was his name? I can't remember his name. I should, but there's been a plenty of people who have been killed by the police, plenty of black people who have been killed by the police over the past however many years it's been. And there's protest, but this is really the first time where we're making headway. Where they're holding officers accountable. They're charging officers,
And not just one, but all
of them.
It took a
And
while though.
Yeah, it took a while,
Yeah.
but it's like we have this momentum now. That's why people are continuing to say, "Well, okay, now we got to get Breonna Taylor. Now we got to get Trayvon Martin. Now we got to get, you know, Sandra Bland. All these people. Why can't they have justice too?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to loot for the next, you know, 6 months? Is that what it's gonna take?
Yeah.
Because people are riled up more than I've ever seen
And
more than I've ever seen it.
You know what's great about these?
And it's a good thing.
Yeah, and the great thing about this protest is not just the U.S. Like it
It's
sparked
all
fires
over the world.
Yeah, it sparked.
It's all
fires.
over the world because the United States has. I mean, come on. They have a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
They have a reputation of rolling into other countries and saying
Yeah.
I'm captain now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Look at me.
people are like, man, like they're giving it to the world and they're giving it to their, you know, their own people.
Yeah.
It's you know, and it's, you know what's funny? I was thinking about this the other day. Going back to the protest against the stay-at-home order a couple weeks back. I think there was a missed opportunity there. And I didn't think about it at the time.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think anyone kind of did. Again, when you go through what black and brown people have gone through for the past, let's just say just the last century. Let's just say, not even the last century.
Yeah.
The segregation, Jim Crow law didn't end until like the late 50s, early 60s. I'm not exactly sure what year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, black people didn't get the right to vote until around that time. So let's just say let's just round it off to 1960. That's 40 years plus 20 years. That's 60 years, not even 100 years that black people have had equal rights. You know, like truly equal rights. Not even a century. So when you consider the brutality that the black community has faced, let's just say since they truly got equal rights,
Mm-hmm.
they've still been getting their asses handed to them.
Yeah.
When the government says, hey, stay home for a little bit because there's a disease going around, so, you know, we're you know, yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs, but, you know, get unemployment, we're going to send you a check, it seems mild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So black people will be like, all right, that doesn't sound too bad. All right, I'll stay home. You know, people of color, well, I'll stay home.
Yeah.
Right, you know. White people are like, I don't fucking think so.
Yeah.
That's my house. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
But I think there was a missed opportunity because when it comes down to it, this is what I mean when I say missed opportunity. When it truly comes down to it, it's not black people against white people. At least it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Black people against white people or minorities against, whiteys. It's really about a nation against the government that's abusing it, and a nation that doesn't want to get pushed around by the government. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think the stay-at-home order, the quarantine, for the most part, I think was an opportunity to be like, okay, the let's all come together as a nation. Fuck black, white. Fuck black. The black and white thing, or the race thing, or just minorities versus
Yeah.
This is our opportunity to say, hey, the government, fuck you as a people, and push back and say, hey, we want to get taken care of. We want $2,000 allowance every month until this thing's over. Mm-hmm. We want, this and that. We could have stood together as a nation and forgot about skin color for a second. And it's almost like in The Watchmen when Ozymandias creates a threat that is non-discriminate. It doesn't discriminate. Therefore, he inflicts world peace because we all have to come together because now there's a common threat. Yeah. I think the quarantine or the COVID, or at least the way our government handled the COVID, could have been a moment for us to say, well, let's put it all aside and come together and realize that we have the power if we worked together to demand and get what we want out of our government. But it's not possible because people are just too politically driven, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah. But I don't know. I was just thinking about that the other day. That may have been a missed opportunity for us. But
no, you're right. Because now look at what the Republicans are doing because they run the Senate. And as of right now, as we're doing this podcast, they have that bill that's going in. That's supposed to be the second stimulus check, right? Well, what's coming around?
Sort of banking on.
Yeah. Well, what's coming around the corner? The elections.
The election.
So, what a way for Republicans to just get complete control of Washington, right? Because you have Democrats in the House, but you have Republicans where you really mean something in the Senate. Mm-hmm. If they wait a little bit just before election so nobody forgets this, then hand us out money.
Yeah.
And it may not be what we could have had, like you said, the $2,000 a month, but it'd be like just a little bit, like just a chip, just to keep everybody calm and hey, you're gonna be okay. People are gonna remember that in the election. That's why they're taking so long. That's why Republicans are waiting a little bit, so that people can remember that when elections come around and it's in the bag for them. Yeah,
you're right.
So,
but I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I think with everything that's been going on, yes, there's a lot of people who are anti-Black Lives Movement, who are pro-Trump still, and, just want to see the looting and the rioting and run with that, But there's also a lot of people who are changing their view and saying, man, there really is an issue. And I can't support, Trump, and I can't support these ways if this is what's happening, if people are dying, if people are being mishandled and mistreated. And also people are angry, and I think a lot of people are going to show up to vote because they say the reason why Trump won the first time, other than, yes, he has his loyal followers, yes, no doubt. But I think for the most part, I think there's a lot of people who are anti-Trump. I think the reason why, they say that one of the big reasons why Trump won in the first place is because that nobody thought that he would win.
Yeah.
Nobody thought he would win. So they just didn't vote, Did I want to vote for Hillary? No. What was I supposed to do? Vote for Trump? There's a Simpsons
I was about to bring that up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's the Treehouse of Horror. I just watched it today.
Yeah.
Season 8, Treehouse of Horror 7. There's one of the segments where Kang and Kodos invade, and there's an election going on between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole, if anyone remembers Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
And they kidnap them, and they assume their form. So one becomes Bill Clinton, and one becomes, and they're trying to rig the election, and it's stupid, and they're talking, it's obviously not Bill Clinton and Bob Dole, but people are such sheep that they just don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So finally, they're having like the big debate, right? So they're both in front of this huge crowd. Then Homer's the only one who knows that they're aliens. Yeah. He shows up to the debate, and he exposes them and takes off their masks. Yeah. They're exposed, and he goes, "These are aliens," And I'm like, "Oh, what do we do? What do we do?" And then the aliens go, Kang and Kodos go, "Well, it doesn't matter." Now, he goes, "Because you got to vote for one of us."
Yeah.
It's a two-party system. So, what does it matter that we're aliens? You got to vote for one. And then one of the people in the crowd goes, "Well, I know. I'll vote for a third party. I'll do a third-party vote." And then Kodos goes, "Go ahead. Throw your vote away." And everyone's like, "Ah." And then at the best line. So of course people go and they vote, and one of the aliens ends up winning, right?
Yeah.
And they take over the world, and President Kang, and it's all hail President Kang, and everyone's enslaved, and the best. This is sum up American politics, and American just they want to just absolve themselves of responsibility. Marge goes, "Why do we have to put up with this president?" And Homer goes, "Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos." It's The Simpsons really, man. This was in like 96 that they put this out. And it's like, it's crazy how relevant these jokes are. It's it's a satire of American politics, and it's insane how I feel like it's more relevant now than it was back then, because people are more people mistrust the government more than ever. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was people mistrusted the government in 96, but that was for conspiracy theorists. For the most part, people still lived in their nice little world where it was like, well, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Well, everything's not fine.
Yeah. And that bubble has just burst.
It's bursting, and people can't handle it. To be honest, and I get it. But frankly, there's times during the day when I'm seeing everything that's going on, and I'm seeing everything in my feed, and I'm seeing, people who are arguing against the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm seeing all this just divide and anger and so much on the internet.
Yeah.
And there's parts of the day where I'm like, I just want this to be over. I just want this to not be, because I want to go back to I don't know. I just want to go back to just not having to worry about it, not having to think about it, but that it can't be that way.
Yeah,
you have to think about it. I didn't even want to almost come and do the podcast today because I'm like, man, we have to talk about what's going on. Mm-hmm. It has to be said. I don't want to be silent, I don't want to be neutral. I do believe that it's true what they say. If you're neutral, you're chosen the side of the oppressors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't want to be that. I agree with the Black Lives Matter movement, but I'm at the same time I'm very lazy, and I think man, I wish we could just go and do the podcast and just do what we normally do, just bullshit and talk about games and tell stupid stories. But it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's what has to happen.
Yeah, we have to get out of. Sometimes you have to get
out of your comfort zone if you want to grow. Yeah, for sure, no doubt.
Because it's funny you say that. I was talking to Ash, and we were talking. I was just looking shit up, seeing what was going on, but it was very overwhelming. Very overwhelming.
It is overwhelming.
And I looked at Ash, and then as I was uploading the last podcast, I went to one of our episodes, the Halloween episode specifically, and I saw how much fun we were having.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this is.
I was watching a video.
Yeah.
I put it on my Instagram, and I came across it the other day. I started watching it. It was me, you, J-Rat, and Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Dave's Not Home.
Yeah, Dave.
And we're talking about wings. Talking about Wingstop and Domino's and how their wings suck and how Wingstop's technically better.
Yeah.
But, and I'm like, why can't we talk about wings, you know? and it was stupid and futile, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
and you know, but the thing is, you know, like when I said earlier, I just want to forget about it. Mm-hmm. I just want to go back to just thinking about work and music and my future and thinking about myself. But I have that luxury. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't.
No, they don't.
And that's why it's important for people like us to speak up, because if the people who don't have that luxury, the people who have to live in these environments where the people, they have to be afraid of the police and they have to be afraid of their own streets and their own neighborhoods, they need our help, I guess.
Yeah. Everyone.
They need it.
Everyone getting together is a good thing. And like you said, it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. I mean, it's uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to get called out on their bullshit. But, you know, it's just, like I said, for me, like, I kind of want to just be like, I just want to be done with this already so that I can go back to the way things were. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. When the COVID started and we lost our jobs, you know, over time, I turned to Sean, my roommate, who, you know, we all worked at the same place.
Yeah.
I turned to him and I said, the way things were 3-4 weeks ago, that routine that we were in and the life that we knew, that's it. It's never coming back. It's not. And we're going to have to wait a long time, but it's never going to be the same. You know, even if we make it through and we actually end up going back to the media center and working, it's not going to be the same. It's just things are going to be different. But I mean, the media center is always changing. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, I get what you mean.
Things have to change, and they're talking about defunding the police, and there's a lot of that kind of rhetoric going on now. You know, now that the officers have been charged, like I said, for George Floyd, they're pushing for more officers to get charged for all the other people I named earlier, and I'm sure there's way more.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And talking about, you know, defunding the police, and there's going to be a lot more to talk about in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and Garcetti had a speech yesterday, and he already, you know, because everybody, you know, saw that fiscal year report that he put up for the new budget. And, you know, it infuriated a lot of people. I don't know if you've seen it, but, like, they cut back on a lot of other funding. But the one thing that actually gained more money
was the LAPD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so he just made an announcement that he's cutting their budget significantly. And
for sure.
He's going to reroute that money towards
Garcetti's
community.
Listening to the people, it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess all we can do is see what happens next.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't agree with a lot of Garcetti what he's doing, but if words is one thing, but let's see the action.
Yeah, well, for sure, of course. I mean, I know I just said, you know, that this has been going on, and there's a part of me that says, man, I wish things could just go back. You know, not things in the world, my life specifically, but that's not going to happen, and I actually don't want people to stop, and I want people to continue to push for change, you know, in the system. And but you know, at this point now, all we can do is sit and wait.
And it looks like it's working, so keep it up. Everyone out there, you guys are brave. You know, keep it up. Keep it up.
So I guess we'll wrap it up for this edition of the Rev and Filo show.
One more thing, for George Floyd and his family, just want to send out their prayers. He just had his memorial.
Georgie.
So we're praying for you, him, George Floyd, rest in peace, and
I wonder
his
what
family.
Mr. Floyd would think of all this. You know, I guess we'll never know. But yeah, prayers to his fam, and don't forget though, there's a lot of families suffering the same fate.
Yeah.
So continue, fight the good fight, as they say. And to our audience, I just want to say before we go, we're living in unstable times. There's a lot of things up in the air, and there's a lot of divide. There's been a lot of divide, and it seems to be coming to a boiling point. So just remember to, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a breather. If you're feeling overwhelmed by everything that's going on, talk to somebody. Talk to your friends. Luckily, me and Felipe, we get to sit down once a week and we get to talk to each other. Yeah. And we can sort of all put it out and maybe even put sort of a funny spin on it and have a laugh about it. And it's okay to laugh and it's okay to make jokes, even though there's a lot of serious things going on. Just go out and speak. Speak to who you can. Speak to your friends. Speak to your family. There's professionals, to call. And just be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And we're going to get through this. I can feel it. And we'll see you next time.